This being the first talk, I wanted to see that how I can actually see that what's the power of ecosystem. So I wanted to also tie it up with a theme called connecting the dots. So I said I'll just choose a topic on talk on entrepreneurship. So one of this, my fundamental core belief is something to see. We all talk about India being a developed. When do we see it as a developed country? And I believe personally, one of my core belief is that it can be only called as a developed country when most of its citizens become entrepreneurs or entrepreneurial, because then we move from a paradigm shift from a problem creators to problem solvers, and that's what I see it as a developed country. And for me, it's very simple. I can talk about the story of myself. It's very simple. I think that's what I'm going to talk about it now. I'm going to make it better by talking about three topics. One is the power of problems, the power of solutions, and the power of co-creations. I think this summarizes what we're actually trying to see, that how we all can be entrepreneurs. Thanks, Susanna, to mentioning Deshpande. So he was one of my sole inspiration to see that how I can actually be part of it. He quotes, there are three kind of people in the world. First category of people, there is somebody who sees a problem and just ignores it. They're not at all bothered about it. That's called first category people. The second one is more, they see a problem or issues and they keep on complaining about it. Government ne ye nahi kiya, college ne ye nahi kiya, usne wo nahi kiya, and they start gossiping about it. Again, not much of value add from this particular category of people. There is a third category of people who sees a problem, gets excited. They believe that they can actually solve it. And that's what we call as an entrepreneurial. Because for them, you can talk to any entrepreneur, they all saw the problems and then they jump to solve it. And that's what we call as an entrepreneurial category. And this has been quoted by Dr. Deshpande, who's one of my mentor, guide, and guiding force for my life as well. So I'll touch upon the topic on what is it called power of problems. I just wanted to reflect myself. I come from a place called Raichur, that's one of the North Karnataka district, a very small town, though we are a powerhouse of the entire state, but we still don't have a power. We have a thermal power stations, there is a power cut in our city. We had an engineering college back in about 20 years back now. I didn't even have a RCC roof on my college. If at all we start complaining about it, I've got plethora of problems which I can talk about Raichur. Even today, whenever I go to, I ensure that I go to my native at least twice a month, once at least, and then see how I can actually contribute whatever best I can do. What it has taken to me is to see that I come from a family background of farming background. My father is a farmer. I'm a first qualified engineer in the family. So there was nobody to guide me, but there was my grandfather who always told me that there are people who see something and then gets excited, and probably that is where the seed was sown in myself. And my dad come from farming background again. He wanted his son to be an engineer or a doctor or some of those things, and he put me in a school. I'm a first guy in the family to go to English medium school. Okay, so that actually get me the modest beginning how we actually can all start. And I wanted to be a medical guy. I wanted to pursue medical, but for some reason I couldn't get the medical seat, and then ended up taking mechanical. So you can see the synonymous. M stands for mechanical, M stands for medical, and that's how I took a mechanical engineering. And I didn't have any background to say why I'm taking this part. I'll tell you the first problem where I hit upon was, I was actually taking a seat in one of the repute college in Karnataka. It's in Dharwad, SDM. Within a day of me taking a seat, I realized that I don't want to go because I was a lone son. My mom said, do you really want to go away so soon? I said, okay, mom, I'm going to come back to Raichur. So I took a seat in Raichur. Irony, my dad was very upset with me. He said, boss, I'm here to see how I can actually get you the best education. You are wanting to be in Raichur. And he didn't even come to get my admissions done. And that's the problem what I saw. I said, okay, let me do, how do I do an engineering? We all come from a tier 2 cities, and after completing of PUC science, you don't even know where to go and pay the fees and all. So I gathered all the courage, went myself, took my admissions against my parents' will, and then said, let's continue there. So then I could realize something called as a rocket principle. So I'll tell you what is the principle. This is something which I coined myself. I flunked in a subject. This is the first time I actually flunked in a subject. I said, boss, ye to aasman niche gir chuka hai. And that's the problem what we thought. And then I said, I was watching ISRO's some scientific stuffs there. Could see something that rocket always flies up when its ass is on fire. Why wait for somebody to put a fire? Why can't we put ourselves? And that's exactly what I thought to myself. And I coined a term called rocket principle. Wherever I get into problems, I guess first put fire on myself and then see how best I can solve it. And that has been an instrumental change for myself. Today it appears very easy, but back in those days were monument moments where I myself was flaunting for many times. So that's something about my problems. If you can also see the problems what entrepreneurs solving, likewise me, you all know Redbus. Funny, he didn't get a seat, he started Redbus. And that's the real story. He was wanting to go to Nizamabad on one fine day, but he couldn't get a seat. And that's exactly what the problem. There are also a lot of entrepreneurs in our ecosystem as well. They see farmers struggling. And then they try to see how I can actually go to build a solution for that. They see healthcare being not provided properly, and then what they can do. Similarly, in IoT space, a lot of these problems are the genesis of entrepreneurship is from the problem sets, and that actually brings me to the next pillar. How can we get a part of solutions? So now, as you see the depicts itself, it's talk about problems first. I'll talk about my own journey. I never wanted to be an entrepreneur, to be very honest. I never knew there is something called entrepreneurship. I just happened to join a company where they saw that I had a potential and they took me on a board. We were a small team, about a team of 12 people, I think, as it is in my introduction. We had this phenomenal project coming from one of the global company, and engineers were very expensive at that time. And I'm talking about 2004, 5-ish. I kind of saw this as a problem which majority of the even biggies like MNCs, like majority of the MNCs were not able to solve it. We said, why don't I go and train somebody as something from diploma? Nobody during those days looked at diploma as an alternative for engineering. I went across Lux and corner of the city in the North Karnataka and then picked about 25 engineers, diploma holders, trained them for 3 months and then made them engineers worthy for it. Believe me, we got about more than 12 crores gross profit using those category people. And that's where I see there's a problem. How do we build a solution for that? Similarly, I encountered many, and we actually, that synonymous I use saying that I will take this particular project at X price if you give me a contract for 3 years. And that's how you start negotiating with the person there. And for any good entrepreneur, it's very important to be a good negotiator to understand what is a win-win. And there is absolutely no deal if it is not a win-win. If I win, other person lose, it's going to fail in the long term. If other people lose and if we win and other person lose, it's again going to be a so it's only one we can actually look for a long term is win-win. And that's how exactly I've seen the problems. So some of these problems when I see, I personally get excited. And all of this, again, connecting back to dots because of my rocket principles. Whenever I'm being put down, I said, what next to be done? At one stage, I saw that it was kind of getting more autonomous. I wanted to build a product companies in the country and wanted to solve a TS2 cities problems major because I come from that particular background. I said, most of the students were not getting jobs. I, along with my other co-founders, said that can we build a platform which can be more trying to see how can a person in a remotest of the village or city can actually appear for a test. And that's the platform what we built from Bangalore. And that's the mistake what we did again, because we were never close to the problem. So when I went to Hubli in 2012, that was my eye-opening. So I said, when we realized that, okay, we are not close with our customers, we actually built something, assuming that it is in. Again, assume if you split it, it's as of you and me. So the first step, what all of us make a mistake, we don't really go for validations. And that's what I learned the biggest lesson, though that was regarded as a top 50 startup in the country. We got good amount of acquisition deals. Naukri's founder was wanting to acquire us kind of things. And then we had actually had a platform wherein 10,000 students can actually take it one single shot at test. Any company looking for 2 or 3 seats, they can actually look for potential 10 to 12,000 of candidates and then they interview all of it. And it all have happened seamlessly. So then that put me, I couldn't create because during those days, internet was a big issue. Today, thankfully, it's not. But during those days, penetration was so low. Now GI has kind of disturbed everything there, right? So we kind of sold the technology and then was part of another company called Zentron, which was into image processing. Here, the very first product what we built, we won an international award. And again, I'm all trying to say that we all see the problems, just there are a few people who look at it in a different way. And we actually competed against greatest of the greats and then say how can solve it. And again, it's all a team effort. It's nothing one person particular work. All we need to see how do we get a complementary strengths among the team. Similarly, if you look at the solutions, right, if you can actually spread across some while and do a paradigm shift from A point to B point, then you actually get to another perspective altogether. And that's what I call as a solution part of it. Again, any of these number of entrepreneurs, right? So there are good number of entrepreneurs who are wanting to solve by themselves, but they're all doing in silos. As Susanva rightly mentioned, there are a handful of entrepreneurs who wanting to solve the problems. But again, it's not still a nationwide big, they can't even put a small dent on Indian map. And this is what puts me a powerful idea to get to the next pillar, power of co-creation. So I said, I completely agree with, again, what the earlier chief mentioned that as a country, if at all we have to be known as entrepreneurial, then we cannot just rely on metros. We need to have, India has got 1.3 billion population, out of which 1.1 billion lives outside metro. Now, if vast number of population has been neglected, how can we actually think of being an entrepreneurial country? So I decided that this was haunting, and then my inspiration, they had this particular vision saying that how can we make non-metros relevant for the metro ecosystem, because he has been seeing in Valley a lot. He could actually call for a civil war. If the gap goes larger from metro and non-metro, you actually invite for a civil wars in the country, which we don't want to. And I said that moment gave an opportunity, because my second startup was not really achieved in its full sense. I said, now I have an opportunity to see, can I work with young minds and make them entrepreneurs than making them employees. So this was really, really daunting. I spoke to my board and said that, boss, there's something which is coming up on my kitty, and this is something very close to my heart. I didn't want it to do when I'm old. I would say not from a health perspective. I said, let me not do it at the age of 50. Let me try at the age of 35, so that my energy levels are high, and then can I really contribute something? There is a quote by Lead which says that complaint starts from they, solution starts from I. This was something which hit me very, very hard. If I also start behaving like the second category people, then we are not actually solving the problems. That made me shift from Bangalore to Hubli along with the family. So thankfully my kids were small, and I spoke to my family, very kind enough to agree that we actually should move it out. Now, Hubli was not at all known for ecosystem, by the way. We didn't even had about 6 to 7 startups, that's all in 2016. We said, let me take this entrepreneurial opportunity and then see, again, we all like-minded people came together and said, what can be done? Can we take 10 companies to next level at a valuation of 10 crores? And then if this gets proven, then we can actually invite 100 other startups. So now that's the challenge what we had. In 2016-17, I only focused on those 10 startups. We act like a co-founding team for us entrepreneurs, and then see that how it can be taken to the next level. Typically, TI, CI does the same thing again. So we said we'll do that particular part. And we had a small area of 10,000 square feet. Trust me, we didn't even had a chairs with wheel in the first office what we had. So, and entrepreneurs, I decided very carefully that if anybody wants to have a luxury, then he or she is not an entrepreneur. You all get it once you are actually glorifying there. So we did like a POC, proof of concept, and then today we have built India's largest ecosystem. I don't know if I have internet where to showcase that. So it's 1 lakh square feet premises what we have. It's the only ecosystem which has an ESDM lab with a non-profit center. Today, Government of Karnataka does something called as Elevate. I think you should be knowing this. They recognize top 100 startups from the state, and then they award them. I'm very happy to share this. Sandbox Startups has been topping the table for our last 3 years. We are number 1 in 2017. 7 of our startups won the award from a single ecosystem. In 2018, about 8 of them. In 2019, 10 of them. Accumulating the funds, what we shared about 2.5 crores from Government of Karnataka. So that makes it a single largest ecosystem wherein highest number of startups were actually getting the awards from this. Again, bulk of the share goes to entrepreneurs. I would again say, if at all Mysore wants to create, or if you want to be creating an ecosystem, right, we all need to know we are a catalyst. We are not the major players. We have to give it for entrepreneur, wherein entrepreneurs are the guys who create a magic. Whatever we can make is only to expedite that. These platforms are mere to see how can we expedite that part. And we have about 68 startups now. Uh, the cumulative revenue these people do about more than 70 crores. And half of our startups have got an excellent fund, which says that there is a, which now says that entrepreneurship can be built in non-metros as well. Again, we don't want to just restrict this with Hubli. We just wanted to see how we can actually spread across country. And that's the reason why I agreed to give this particular talk, because our vision is to cater that 1.1 billion population. And it cannot happen by one institute, one company, or one individual, or a group of individuals. It's all about co-creations, how we all can learn from each other. And if at all, if there is always a possibility, we can make 1 plus 1 as 11. And that's where we see its possibility there. And to say that, Hubli is more a POC model, I would say. What next? So this is something I picked up from a global forum. Globally, we are about 7 billion people, out of which about 400 millions are entrepreneurs. Now, I was reading an article which says that US is about 24% of its population entrepreneurs. And that's one of the reasons why it's called as the biggest developed country and the successful one to whom we all look up to. India has got about 2.72%. Again, it's one particular survey report. I'm not sure if it is the right part, but there is always chance that to take it up. Global standard says that any country can actually have about 5% entrepreneurs. Now let's take about Mysore. We have about 10 lakh populations here. Now 5% of them, if at all they're entrepreneurs, look at what city would look like. I actually aggregated this to a college, in one particular college there. Minimum intake is about 1,000 students, right? Again, take a knowledge of 5%. If 50 entrepreneurs can come from that college, look at the vibrancy what they can bring to the ecosystems. And that's what we said, that entrepreneurship is not just to be glorified, it has to be very serious. The guys who are taking about it should be the third category people. They get to problems every day. You can talk to any of the speakers, you have all the problems to speak. Just today morning I got to know my PPT was not getting loaded. There is a solution for it. It's not that it's not there, right? We all need to be persistent enough to see how can we solve it. So if at all we all believe in that particular category, we will never be a category 1 or category 2. And that's what my submission for the entire crowd. I can quote for, since I see that there are majority of the students as well. I was talking to one of your friends yesterday. You all can notice one thing. Just before the exams, 1 hour day today, couple of days, we actually get the concept very clearly to our mind, isn't it? The simple reason because we actually focus there, and that's the power of focus. If we are dedicated enough to say, hey boss, this is what we are going to do, and I'm not going to hold up on saying that problems pay, I will halt for it and then say how I can actually look at another alternative. I got 3 of startups whom I'm mentoring from Mysore. All of them are actually very good ones. They grow paddy here. They said thus there's a scarcity of laborers. One of the startup by name Prajwal here, who is built a paddy transplanter. He says that we don't get a scarcity of farmers. There are not many of. So he has built his own machine, which can actually is used for, and son of soil again. So likewise, I always see that entrepreneurs started with problems. They built a solutions. Once they build a solution, they come for co-creations. And probably I invite people who are already successful entrepreneurs here, can come up, start a bit of mentorings. And it's important for any entrepreneur to have a mentors in their life. Have mentors who questions you hard. Don't expect answer from them. If you're expecting answer from them, you're actually calling for yourself a problem. You need to have a people who can question you with a good intent and saying that and that makes you stop, think what to be corrected, and then go back and choose mentors on that. I might be having about 28 plus mentors for my life. I actually have changed mentors every now and then, and that's the only reason why we are all successful. Any of this ecosystem what we have created, it's all because of the ecosystem. There is a TIE, there is a CI, all of this we actually borrowed all the knowledge. There is easy for us to copy paste and do everything, right? We just need to get the good thing from each and everything and then see what best can be adapted for the region and then see how it can be taken up. With that, I think I believe personally that India can be one of the vibrant ecosystems. It has got a potential to solve India's problem. Nobody understands a problem like what we do because we live with it. And I firmly believe we all belong to the community of the third category, that's entrepreneurial category. With that, I end up my note. Thanks a lot. Thank you.